The next thing we're going to talk about is speed or timing, which is going to be how fast or slow your voice is at the time. This is also going to engage the child. It's going to put emphasis on a particular word or phrase that's important, and it can also be used to differentiate characters and emotions. So for most of the book, as the past few strategies, you're going to read at a slightly slower than comfortable pace, okay? So what feels like a normal pace to you is actually pretty fast. I'm sure for these videos, you guys are like, wow, she talks really fast. And that's because this feels like a normal pace for me. But if I was reading a book, I would know, like, I'm naturally a pretty fast talker and I need to slow down or else the children are not going to understand what I'm saying because it's going too fast for them to process and the words kind of run together so they aren't as clear. So when you're reading a book, you want to read at a slightly slower than comfortable pace. So you guys have heard me for most of this video talking at what's a comfortable pace for me. And this pace is a more appropriate pace to read at for children because it gives breaks between words and allows them to process. It gives a natural flow of the English language just at a slower pace so that the child is able to understand what you're saying, absorb new words, and also get that syntax and language that they are gaining from the book. Okay, so you can see that example that I just used is where I'm talking at a slower than comfortable pace for me. This is my normal pace, but when I'm reading, we take it down a notch. Yes, and here's another note is that I'm sure in a speech class, if you've ever taken one, they note that naturally when you're nervous or you're presenting something, you just talk faster because you want to get it over with. I know I do when I give speeches. And so by consciously telling yourself, I need to be slow, it's actually going to make you sound more normal than slow, even though you feel like you're talking really slow. But when you are adjusting your speech, your speed, either faster or slower from that slightly slower than comfortable pace, that's going to emphasize something's happening in the book. So for a fast speed, it's going to be something really exciting or bad or fast is happening. So it's right when the robber is catching them, or it's for we're going on a bear hunt. Oh my goodness, the bear's coming back after us! Quick, back to the forest! You know. So like the first half of the book, we're going on a bear hunt, we're going through the forest, and then on the way back, it's back to the forest, tiptoe, 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 back to the water, splash, 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 splash. So it's going to be way faster because something bad is happening. They're being chased by a bear and they're running through the forest. So it's signaling to the child that they're stressed and they want to be done with whatever's happening, and that's going to engage the child but also cue to them what's happening in the book. When you read at a slow speed, it's when a character is trying to be sneaky or something slow's happening or it's something you want the child to focus on, or when you're introducing a new concept. So if we're talking about Martin Luther King Jr., which is one of our topics right when we get back in the spring in January or the beginning of February, preschoolers don't know who Martin Luther King Jr. is. They've never learned about him before, but he's a very important figure. So as you're introducing Martin Luther King Jr., you're going to say, this is Martin Luther King Jr. He is a very important man, right? So you're introducing a new topic. You want to give them time to process all of this new vocabulary, these new names, characters, new ideas that they've never heard of before. They just need time. And by talking slower, it can help them understand what's happening. And then last but not least, at the end of the book, you always want to end the book at a very, very slow speed. This signals that the book is ending, and it allows the child time to process any questions they have, to process the entire book as a whole. What happened during that book? Like, what parts did I like? What parts were scary? What parts were exciting? And it gives them time to think about what they want to say in case you have any questions after the book, or if they have some comment that they want to make after the book. And so it's always important to read so slow for the last page, even slower than the slightly slower than comfortable. It's going to feel awkward, and the slower it is, the better. You can't go slow enough, unless I guess you're going like 1 word per minute. That's that's a little too slow. So for pauses, this kind of also goes in with the timing. Silence is okay. Like I said with the Martin Luther King Jr., I gave a pause in that example, didn't I? Right? Like, this is Martin Luther King Jr. Pause. And it feels awkward at first because naturally adult humans just want to be talking back and forth and just keep going on with the book. But silence is okay. And it's actually very important to integrate into the book because it can be a way to grab their attention. As I mentioned earlier, if you go from talking really loud to really quiet really fast, it's going to grab their attention if they're getting a little restless. This is the same thing. If you are going really fast or even at a normal pace and then all of a sudden you stop, the kids are going to look up like, why did you stop? What's happening? And then they want to see what's happening. Or if you're going really, really fast because, for example, the bear hunt book, back through the forest, back through the water, back through the mud, back through the grass, we're in the house, we're under the bed. Oh my gosh. I'm never going on another bear hunt again. Because all of that fast stuff happened, that's so overwhelming. And so by giving that pause, it allows the child to be like, whew, that was a lot. And gives them time to kind of catch up with you before you keep going on with the story.